Therefore, we are very delighted and honored to have Your Excellency to visit us for
Your Excellency, Mr. Bilawal, Bhutto Zadari, Honorable Ambassador Khalil Hashmi, at Fudan University this morning. His Excellency is during an ever-growing friendship between Islamic Republic. His Excellency will speak, short. Mr. Bilawal and Bhutto Zadari, political party in Pakistan, the People's Party of Pakistan, and also a member of the Pakistan Parliament and Prime Minister of Pakistan a few years ago. In international diplomacy, and particularly country Bhutto, the former president of Pakistan and a visionary architect, Mr. Mahatma, the economic and strategic cooperation between historical consolidation of this partnership, giving it a new dimension and trade, investment, regional connectivity, but as the inheritor of a vision that his grandfather set in. He's here to reflect on the remarkable past and to address the
Director of Center for Southeast Studies based at Fudan University. Welcome to Fudan. So just as you mentioned, Pakistan become China's friend when China needs, and China consistently provides support to Pakistan whenever Pakistan needed, in accordance with Pakistan's needs. It's why we are very good friends in a very long history. So my question, just following last one. You also elaborated a lot about 4 days conflict between your country and India. My question is, what impact of this 4 days conflict it make a kind of new reality in South Asia? What kind of this kind of new reality on Pakistan's foreign policy toward India? Is there any change?
Shape this reality, I think, is still in our hands. And we've also been advocating for the international community to play their role in shaping this new reality. While on the one hand, Pakistan demonstrated its superiority in our military domain, in our kinetic domain, with the connectivity and through this entire episode. That leaves 2 options going forward for our Pakistan. Either we leave things unresolved where they were, and that places us in a position where the threshold for kinetic conflict between India and Pakistan is at the lowest it has ever been in our history. As of today, the threshold that the Indian government has imposed on its people, the new normal or the new abnormal, as we like to call it, is that any attack, any terrorist attack, anywhere in India, proof or no proof, means that they go to war with Pakistan. We are 2 nuclear-armed countries, and as of today, we have no dispute resolution mechanisms that are active. Dispute resolution mechanisms are sort of far off. Our lines of communication are frustrated. And I believe it's important for us to re-establish these things, to engage in a comprehensive dialogue, to address all issues, whether it is our unresolved issues or even the issue of terrorism. I believe that India's pride is obviously hurt through the events of this 4-day conflict. And rather than using this as an opportunity to reflect and introspect, they've sort of doubled down on their position. This may serve the political interests of any one individual, but it certainly doesn't uh, serve the interest of their people. To whip up this sort of sentiment and expectation means that the next time there's a conflict, not only do they force their people into our people into a difficult situation, it means that we're leaving the destiny of the people of Pakistan, the people of China, in India, and in international community even, in the hands of these terrorists. That whenever they decide to do an attack, it means that we have to start fighting it. Pakistan experiences terrorism. Much of that terrorism, you may be aware, particularly that is linked to sort of the Mujib Brigade and the PLA and such terrorist network, we believe are linked back to India. We caught an Indian spy, Kulbhushan Yadav, in Balochistan, who admitted he was in our custody to fostering this sort of activity. So we would like to pursue the path to peace, to engage in a comprehensive dialogue with India. We encourage the international community to play its role in facilitating that process. Perhaps forums such as the SCO or regional forums are better placed to play that role. But it is in all our interests to pursue that path and move away from this position where not only is the threshold for conflict at the lowest it's been between our two countries, the escalation ladder is also the highest it's been ever in our history. The last act of the Indian government during this 4-day conflict was to launch a nuclear-capable missile into Pakistani territory. Now, they didn't deploy nuclear, it wasn't actually armed to be nuclear. But the Pakistani side had about 30 seconds to decide on a grainy screen that is this BrahMos missile equipped to be nuclear, not equipped to be nuclear, and what are we to do as a response? So that's an incredibly dangerous, perilous position to leave the peoples of this region. And I haven't even gotten on to sort of what they've done with the Indus Water Treaty and other such dangerous precedents that have been set in this new reality that we have to work together to climb out of.
Wei Zhongyu, professor from the Center for American Studies, you mentioned in your excellent speech that now CPEC is entering the second phase. So would you please elaborate a little bit more on that issue, and what would you expect the impacts it will have on the Pakistan's economy, and what would you expect China will do in this process? Thank you.
Work and the infrastructure, be it for the sort of the communication infrastructure or the energy infrastructure or the port infrastructure. We're now in the phase where we want to encourage inclusive growth, to address inequalities, to have cooperation in agriculture, to have cooperation in industry. What the Prime Minister and his team and our ambassador were working on in the last visit of the Prime Minister is not only sort of G2Gs as much of the CPEC we have sort of been so far, but what we're all particularly interested in encouraging is the business to business, the B2B, the people to people, so the P2P aspects of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. In fact, I was speaking with your Vice President about how I would be particularly keen for us to set up China studies centers in the provinces where my party, the Pakistan People's Party, are governing right now in Pakistan, which is the province of Balochistan and the province of Sindh, so that we can encourage interactions not only between sort of academic level and at the level of our faculties in both these provinces, but I'm particularly keen for there to be interactions and engagements with our students at these at the provincial level with our educational institutions. So it's sort of building on the foundations of what we have already. There's particularly, we're very excited about is the cooperation in agriculture. in tech and in IT, in the mining, in the mineral sector. So I think there's a lot to build on as part of this second phase of the China-Pakistan economic corridor.
A student from the School of Marxism. My question is, what are the prospects for Pakistan-China cooperation in the technology sector, particularly in artificial intelligence and the digital economy? Thank you.
In this sector, the technology sector, in the technological sector, the digital sort of realm in artificial intelligence, and what Pakistan would like to, we believe in your philosophy that if you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, then he can eat for a lifetime. And I would like to see our partnership in the new digital realm, the technological realm, the amazing sort of advancements, revolutions that are to come through AI, the other advancements that are taking place, to follow that sort of shape. So obviously we want to learn from these skills that you have developed here, and would like to be a force multiplier for China's advancements in this realm. And we are, I believe, as a result of the meetings in and around the recent SCO that was held here in China, Pakistan and China will be working in this domain together. And we're very excited about it.
Good morning, my name is Xiang Xiaoman. I'm a PhD student from School of Nursing, Fudan University. And my question is, what are the key highlights of Pakistan-China cooperation in renewable energy projects? Thank you.
The realm in general. There's also a lot of work that we do in the non-renewable energy sector, but obviously the advancements that are taking place at the moment are in the renewable energy sector. And China is particularly leading internationally, not only in renewables, in solar and in electric vehicles. So these are the realms that we would like to enhance cooperation in. We have some solar energy initiatives in Sindh, some wind, the province of Sindh is where I'm from, some wind energy initiatives also in Sindh, but they're not really at the scale that I'd like to see them at. So we would be very happy to cooperate with China, but particularly Chinese businesses, because we have good experience in public-private partnership, where the public sector and the private sector work together to achieve development. So I believe we can come up with a good model where, for example, the public sector's contribution could be the land within Pakistan, and then the private sector, be it Chinese or be it even domestic from Pakistan, can work together in investing then in that land, and we create a public-private partnership to produce renewable energy, low-cost energy at the source. We also want to be part of this electric vehicle revolution that China is leading. In order to do that, we need the infrastructure within Pakistan to be able to adopt this trend. Sort of the charging infrastructure, the energy infrastructure that is to do with that. And I actually have with me the Minister of Transport for Sindh and the Minister of Energy for Sindh, and we've been working together on trying to see how we can, again through this public-private partnership model, encourage whether it is the assembly of such vehicles within Pakistan, whether it is the partnership between governments and the private sector to help set up the industry, the infrastructure. For example, rather than having the government of Pakistan spend a lot of money on building these charging stations and all of that, what I'd like to see encouraged is for us to partner again with the private sector, for us to contribute the land and for private investment to come in, set up that energy infrastructure, perhaps even these electric vehicle companies, because it will be in their own interest. If we have the infrastructure, then more people will buy their cars. And that way, we would like to be part of the advancements made in renewables, both at the energy production end, but also at your electric vehicle revolution that's taking place here in China.
Chinese is 1.4 billion. We have great pressure from overpopulation. Therefore, energy transformation is a way for us to participate in global climate change. In this domain, I think we can have a lot of experiences to share together. And also we have this, your excellence here as well.
My name is Shi Shuo from Fudan Development Institute. I'm majoring in international economics, so my question will be related to trade protectionism. As you know, there are rounds and rounds trade wars from the United States against China, and recently Mexico also would like to raise their tariffs on Chinese goods. So what do you think, what's your opinion, perspective on trade protectionism? Will you help to promote Pakistan market be open to the Chinese investment in Chinese goods?
Today is akin to something like where you invent a sport or you invent a game, right? And it's your rules, you made the rules. And you were playing with everyone and you kept winning the game. So you were very happy with the game. And then as soon as you start losing the game, you said the rules are wrong. And you try to change the rules. It's very, very interesting. Because we used to hear that everybody should become a democracy, because democracy is the best way to do everything, and we want a free society. Then everyone has to be a capitalist and aspire to be free marketeers. Because that is the way that the international community will progress. And doggedly, generation after generation, we were told these concepts. And I think that that was all well and good. Well, these concepts meant that the people who came up with the rules of the game were winning. As soon as they are worried, they're not necessarily losing everywhere today, but they're worried about losing tomorrow. They're taking a chainsaw to the very infrastructure that they helped set up. And that is taking us back to a world of chaos. Sort of is turning the global order, the international community, into the wild, wild west. And it is not in the interests of any country for us to pursue this path. Now that we've established international institutions, now that we've established, as it were, the rules of the game, I think it's important for us to try and work together and ensure that everybody abides by the rules of the game. And it will be important eventually for us to work together as an international community to ensure that those that violate the rules of the game suffer the price, rather than allowing for the international community to pay the price for those that violate these rules. We are seeing incredibly disruptive times in the international, just in the world of diplomacy. You must have heard of the concept of don't shoot the messenger. We've entered the realm of international affairs. I mean, don't shoot the messenger goes all back to our ancient civilizations that we're talking about. You would send your envoys to negotiate, and the negotiators play a key role throughout history. We're literally bombing the negotiators, taking a sledgehammer to the foundations of diplomacy. And as far as these arbitrary trade restrictions, also the reintroduction of tariffs and protectionism, And I think perhaps in the short political sort of calculations of certain individuals, this might be a positive from their perspective development, but I believe it has set such a precedent that is going to mean that we have an incredibly unstable and unpredictable economic environment. And in that context, that will affect growth, both in the West and in the East, and it's in all our interest to work together to take ourselves away from this disorder, and return to some sort of order.
Yes, please.
My name is Wu Ximing, a PhD student from the School of Microelectronics in Fudan University. And my question is, looking ahead for the next decade, what major challenges will Pakistan to China's relations face, and what new opportunities for cooperation do you foresee?
That we face going forward is not just sort of a unique to a Pakistan-China challenge. I think there's some collective challenges that we as a region, but also internationally, are facing. One, and sort of the most obvious and the sort of an existential threat, as it were, is the climate crisis and the challenges that poses. At the moment, we are experiencing another round of historic flooding in Pakistan that has been exacerbated by climate change. You in China have been witnessing the devastation that we caused in various instances. And that is a sort of a collective challenge that we should all be facing together. China's contribution to that, to this fight is also commendable. I mentioned sort of some of it in the context of renewables. Unfortunately, it's another area where this collective responsibility is not being met by those that have played the largest part in creating this climate crisis. They built their wealth at the expense of our collective climate, and now they shirk all responsibility in addressing this issue. So that is definitely a challenge, sort of internationally, and regionally. We'll see what we can do to counter that. Terrorism, unfortunately, is still a persistent challenge which requires regional and international cooperation. We, and this is linked to geopolitics, but again, we in Pakistan have seen after the fall of Kabul and the sort of changes in the region, a drastic increase in terrorist activity in various shapes or forms. And what we see within Afghanistan, if I'm being sort of charitable, is the lack of a capacity to rein in the various groups that function from them, whether it's or at least find it more convenient to function from them. Whether it is the sub-nationalist terrorist groups within Pakistan, we increasingly see their linkages and support bases in that country. And that's particularly helpful for us because they don't only target the people of Pakistan, they target our guests, they target our Chinese guests, and that is something that is intolerable for us. There's also the Taliban and other such terrorist organizations that used to work closely with the organizations in Afghanistan in the past. And unfortunately, at the moment also we see that there's been an incredible increase in cross-border activity from these groups. And there are other groups like the ETIM, like Al-Qaeda. And a concern for me is that we've seen in Pakistan how, whether it's sort of the Majid Brigade, the PLA, or the TTP, they don't have the same sort of ideological, or I don't want to even call it ideological, it's not a sort of a narrative, they don't have those sort of convergences. But we're still seeing cooperation on a logistics side from these organizations when they conduct attacks within Pakistan. And what is worrying to me is if these groups if there's a sustained lack of capacity from the regime in Afghanistan, and we are unable to challenge these groups today, then they will continue to build from strength to strength. And if they're coordinating within the context of Pakistan, they can coordinate within the context of any other country tomorrow. So this I see as a particular challenge. Internationally, terrorism is a challenge. You've seen what it's done to Pakistan and India relations, but internationally, if this threat is not going to be taken seriously, if we don't have sort of across the political spectrum and even across the geopolitical spectrum, cooperation, intelligence sharing to combat this threat, if countries are going to continue to politicize it, whether it's in the context of the Middle East or in the context of India relations, then we'll be unable to address it the way that we should. And the final threat, sort of with climate terrorism, the final threat of these disruptions that I was discussing in the answer to the last question, that if we're going to move away from diplomacy, if we're going to move away from free trade and the fundamentals of what we understood to be economics for the last so many decades, then that sort of disorder, our willful stepping away from cooperation and diplomacy and multilateralism and working collectively to address both, that will further undermine our ability to combat climate, to combat terror, to combat, heaven forbid, another sort of COVID or pandemic situation. So those are the challenges that I see going forward. And each of these challenges, our partnership, us working together, and that's the potential, that's what we're going to hopefully collectively work together to address.
Thank you.
Affairs. So my question is, as you mentioned previously, like the Pakistan has strong friendship with China, but on the other hand, Pakistan also had a strong friendship with its biggest adversary, which is India, like because they want to use, and both Biden administration and Trump administration, they want to use India to campaign China because of facing a serious geopolitical confrontation with China. So my question is, according to your point of view, how can Pakistan successfully making the balance between these two great powers, which is Pakistan, which is China and the United States? Thank you.
Thank you. That each of us have in the Pakistan-China friendship. Pakistan has been fortunate, as I mentioned in the past, to play a role as a bridge between China and the international community, China and the United States, and still to date, we would like, or we aspire, I don't know how practical it is, but we at least aspire to play the role of a bridge builder. And we want, as I mentioned earlier, we believe it is in all our interests that we may sustain a peaceful region. And in order to sustain a peaceful region, it is important for there to be a bridge between Pakistan, between China and the United States. We want to play that role. We believe it's not only in our people's interest, it's in the interest of the people of China, it's the interest of the people of the United States, and all of us as a community of nations. India has very a different view. Rather than playing the role of a bridge, they want to play the role of a divider. They see it as in their interest to exacerbate tensions between the US and China. And in that context, they managed to hoodwink the Americans into believing that they could be some sort of net security provider, whatever that means. And they had their economy subsidized decade after decade. It's not just a Biden Trump thing. There's been a steady sort of work towards this now. Subsidize not only their economy, subsidize their military-industrial complex. And they thought that they could have their cake and eat it too. And what happened Well, if you try to please everybody all the time, you risk upsetting everybody. And I believe that's sort of kind of what's happening. I'm sure America must really be thinking that a country that couldn't face Pakistan for more than 4 days, how are they going to be anybody's net security provider? I'm sure they must be wondering that a country that would be so reckless as to hurtle towards a potential nuclear war without a proper plan and leave the entire region exposed in such a way. If they could, if sort of it was right to place so many eggs in one basket. Having said all of that, I would still encourage everybody, particularly our friends in India, that it is not a question about sort of short-term development. There's no intrinsic sort of dislike between any one country to the other. The problem is China's rise, or this perception of the problem that they perceive to have is with China's rise. And it is impossible to contain the inevitable. And China's rise is as inevitable as the rising of the sun tomorrow. So these sort of ideas that you can contain, I think it will not prove beneficial to any country. But I mean, again, their aspirations may have been really dented during this 4-day conflict. But I believe that there was truly this thought in India that they are also aspiring to be some sort of great power. Now, a great power does not conduct itself the way that India has conducted itself during that 4-day conflict. No great power announces that I'm going to cut off the water for 200 million people and violate the Indus Water Treaty. But if India is aspiring to be a great power, what they need to understand is those that want to contain China because it is rising today will want to contain India if it's rising tomorrow. And again, it is only in all of our interests that we work collectively first as neighbors, as regional neighbors, through mutual respect, win-win cooperation that produces opportunities for all our peoples, and collectively engage with the international community, rather than falling prey to the historic colonial tactic of divide and rule. And I believe that we should all be, given our ancient wisdom and what we draw from all our ancient civilizations, wise enough to take such decisions that we don't expose ourselves to such a situation.
Actually, my study is about digital governance, but I'm not going to ask about this. I actually had the chance to visit Pakistan several years ago for an academic seminar, and I was really impressed by the hospitality of the people, especially the warmth and the confidence of the young women I met. I actually was surrounded by groups of girls taking pictures together. So as the son of the late Prime Minister Bhutto, how do you see the role of women evolving in Pakistan's social and political landscape? And actually, I think you represent a new generation of leadership in Pakistan. So in your view, how can youth be further engaged in political participation, policy making, and social innovation? Thank you.
In the Pakistani context, that's something that's incredibly important to me, not least because my mother was the first female prime minister, but we want to see that space for the women of Pakistan to participate equally, economically, politically, and in any sort of, in all realms. I believe that their challenges to that everywhere. I think we have the challenge of sort of a patriarchal mindset within our society, and every generation of women, of young women, women in general, have worked to take their place. It's never sort of handed to anyone on a silver platter. So I think that the new generation, sort of the Gen Z and the millennials, have to work to establish more equality internationally, but particularly domestically. Within Pakistan, we face challenges in the sort of political realm, the governance realm. I don't see the level of participation of women that I would like to see. But what is encouraging is that in the domain of the educational realm, I see, whether it's in the private sector or in the public sector, an increasing participation of women, increasing success of outperforming their male counterparts. I hope that translates to a sort of broader participation within our society. There was a second half to your question, if you could just remind me, in addition to the...
I also mentioned the young generation, I mean the youth, the role of youth for social...
Yes, so just as we don't see the level of participation of women to the sort of level that I would like to, similarly, there is a challenge, I believe, from the Pakistani context, of a demographic disparity, where we have 65% of our population is under the age of 35. But if you take any institution in Pakistan, whether it is our provincial assembly, whether it is our national assembly, whether it's our provincial government, whether it's our national government, or any institution within Pakistan, any big industry or big business within Pakistan, you won't find that 65% of the representation is under the age of 35. In fact, you'll find it the exact opposite. So I believe that there needs to be more, not only just representation for representation's sake, but you have to give this generation a stake not only in your governance, but also in your economy, in every aspect of your society. And if you don't give them a stake, they risk alienating this generation, which is a vast majority of your population, and then that could pose its own challenges.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much for your very powerful opening remarks and engaged so openly and extensively with our students and colleagues. It seems like there's many more questions they're going to ask, but really we are behind the schedule already. So thank you very much. I think that your ideas, your opinions, observations really will have enrich our colleagues and students. At Fudan University, we start one of the first Pakistan Studies Center in China in year 2009, and we co-founded the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor University Consortium in 2017, and also played a role as the secretary for that consortium. Recently, we are going to also be the secretary for the Global South think tank network, which will facilitate also think tanks among the Global South countries to try to work together. We are also setting up a Center for Global AI Innovative Governance, which try to work with international and regional organizations to enhance the AI capacity building in Global South countries. So I think there's many initiatives here, and I'm also very glad that we have so many students coming from different faculties, from microelectronics to nursing and to politics, and coming together. So that's what I think that Your Excellency's really intention to reach out to our younger generation and to build the strong bonds between the two countries as the older generations have done in the past. So once again, let's give a big hand to thank His Excellency.